It is 6:01.
Sorry.
That's okay. Calling this meeting of the Broadband Authority, January 24th. This was rescheduled after the snow on the 17th. And if everyone will rise for Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible. Moment of silence. Thank you. And for those that are interested, Mr. Parrish is joining us for personal reasons on Zoom. Now, if we could go into the adoption of the agenda.
For the record, he's joining you from the state of Florida.
State of Florida. Okay.
And you can hear us, Mr. Parrish?
Yeah, I can hear. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I've made you a co-host, so you should be able to mute and unmute yourself by yourself without me doing that.
Okay.
Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda, or?
Sure, I'll put forward that motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, thank you. Go into the selection of officers for the Broadband Authority.
I'll
nominate Ms.
I'll
Donahue
nominate
for
Jeff Donahue. Oh, Chris, you beat me to it as chair.
Motion, Ms. Christine Smith, she would serve.
Mr. Kerr, do you want to run this like we normally would with the,
I can if you'd like.
yes, please.
You seem to be doing pretty well on your own. So it sounds like you have nominations on the floor for chair. I've heard a nomination from Ms. Donahue, from Mr. Parrish, and perhaps Mr. Whitson. And I've understood there's a nomination from Ms. Smith, from Mr. Frazier. Any other nominations for chair? Hearing none, we'll close the nominations and vote for who you'd like to be chair, as I called your name. Mr. Parrish,
Donahue.
Mr. Frazier, Smith, Mr. Whitson,
Donahue.
Ms. Smith,
Myself.
Ms. Donahue.
Donahue.
I have 3 Donahue, 2 Smith. Ms. Donahue is your chair.
Moving into vice chair.
I'll nominate Christine Smith.
I decline.
I'll nominate Whitson.
Is there any other nominations for vice chair? With Ms. Smith's declining, Mr. Whitson would be your chair by acclamation, I guess, unless he's declining. Then I'm not sure what you do.
That's fine.
Secretary, your current secretary, per your bylaws, does not need to be a member of the authority. Your current secretary is Ms. Bond. I've not corresponded with her to determine whether she's continued interest.
I'd be more than happy to stay in this position until you are able to find a replacement. I sort of suggested to Ms. Donahue that I'd be very open to having a replacement, one that might be better able to handle some of the ancillary functions that we've talked about. But in the meantime, don't feel like I'm gonna desert you.
Thanks for all your work.
Thank you, Margaret.
Would it be easier if we doubled your salary?
I should. Well, then I guess the floor is open to nominations for sure.
So the planning commission, Miss Lee is the secretary of the planning commission, that's a paid position, right?
Yeah, I believe authority could choose to make this, provide a stipend of some sort. If you chose to, you have a budget. Be up to you.
I suggest it might be helpful to work up a real job description. Now that you've had a chance to work with each other
Yeah.
for a bit, you kind of foresee what sort of things you'd like to have a secretary do. I know by law, there are certain functions that the secretary does by the bylaws. Sometimes things just also occur. So a thorough description might help you identify somebody that would be sort of that position.
Right.
Thank you.
That goes against Rappahannock history though. To create a job description, then hire somebody. We seldom do that.
Sounds like Mr. Fraser's nominating himself on the job description committee.
Okay, we'll work on it.
Yep.
So
So
are
do we
you
need a
going to-
nomination
I
for?
think it would be appropriate to have a nomination and a selection for now, and then you can transition, I think, at any time to.
I'll nominate Miss Pond to be our secretary. Yeah, seriously.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, Ms. Bond will be your secretary by acclamation. Treasurer, I did correspond with Ms. Nick. She welcomed the opportunity to continue serving as the treasurer if the authority saw fit to
Yes,
keep her on. So take open nominations for treasurer.
Debbie Nick.
Many things.
Yes.
Yes.
Any other nominations for treasurer? Hearing none, Ms. Nick will be your treasurer by acclamation. FOIA officer, I didn't correspond with myself, but I'm willing to continue serving if the authority board would like me to.
Mr. Curry,
With many thanks.
with many things.
Any other nominations for FOIA officer? Hearing none, Mr. Curry is your FOIA officer.
Thank you, sir. All right, next we move into minutes for adoption. Thank you, Ms. Bond.
I've seen some comments that I think I was dyslexic on some acronyms for the Northern Piedmont Community Foundation. I believe I was disrespectful to Mr. Curry in one respect, so I will make that correction.
I would be very careful how you catch that. It could be a form of great respect.
Okay.
Have a motion?
Move that we adopt as presented.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Are we, just a second here. So we're adopting 2 sets of minutes, correct?
Correct. All right, 21st and December 8th.
I will second Ms. Smith's motion to adopt those 2 sets of minutes.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I'm muted.
Mr. Parrish.
Make sure Mr. Parrish voted aye for the minutes, or for the minutes.
Yeah, I'll vote aye.
Thank you. All right, we're into public comment. Anyone wishing to speak, please come up to the mic and let us know your district and your name.
Hi, I'm Mark Anderson from Piedmont. I thought there was going to be an angry mob here based on what was social media the last 7 days. I'm happy to say it's very quiet. Maybe they're all out there on Zoom land or something. I just wanted to say some complimentary things. I think we're miles ahead of where we were a year ago at this time. I think we're even ahead of a lot of the rural small counties in Virginia now in terms of being ready to move into universal broadband. And I think the five of you should take most of the credit, or at least having the ability to see an opportunity and seize upon it. Now, we've had some real good breaks, as everybody here knows, definitely.
Definitely.
But I think we're to the point now where the rest of the money can come from underneath the sofa cushions in most of the county offices, if Mr. Curry will get busy on that. So we're within sight of the end, and that's great. Now, there's been a lot of comments on the RapNet, some of them fairly acerbic, which I will not address, but there's some great questions that have been raised both on the RapNet and on the Facebook site about things to look for in the contract. As Mr. Fraser's pointed out, we don't have direct control over the contract. It's being done between two other parties, and we don't have what lawyers call contractual privity exactly. I don't think we have a veto as a county over what the regional commission agrees to, but they ought to listen to every county that's part of their membership. And I certainly hope that we get a list together of things we want to see, and whoever our representative is gets involved and make sure that as much of that as possible is in there. You don't have to make a decision on the contract tonight. I don't think you're going to, but it will be nice to see it as close to final form as possible before you do have to decide. And I also recommend that you have a public hearing for comments between now and whatever the regional commission is going to meet and vote on the final approval of the form of the contract. I thought we were on a shorter time frame than they apparently are. I thought the 90 days had started to run December 15 when the body award was made, but apparently it doesn't start to run until DHCD says it starts to run, which is nice. And so it is, the 90 days isn't up till early May or something like that now, I guess, which is good. So we got time to get organized and get ready. The 3 points I spotted, and I think Mr. Fraser has raised several of these that need to be in the contract are All Points Broadband did quote a rate card to us on September 21st to 21. And I copied those down and put it on the Facebook site so you can see it. It's certain speeds and certain charges monthly for that speed. And I think we need to have that. And if they'll hold to that, that's good. Secondly, we've discussed the $199 connection deal, exactly how you define when it starts, when the 12 months starts to run, so everybody knows. And when you run out of things to do in the middle of the night, you can read the body application, which is 156 pages. In there it says, APB undertakes to advertise the heck out of the availability of the service. So everybody should get some kind of notification. I don't think we should leave it to that, though. I think the county should do its own notification, or rather the authority should do its own notification too. And finally, Mr. Glennie and others have brought up, we need some definitions of quality of service. In network contracts, quality of service type definitions are oftentimes included. One of them is reliability, which is done in terms of nines. The so-called 4 nines quality is 99.9% of the time the service is up and at full speed. That's a gold standard for reliability. And other things, when speed, what is the number of hours for response time to a connection going down, things like that. We can thrash this out. And obviously this is rural broadband, so maybe some of the standards will be a lot looser than they would be for a network contract with a big city corporation, something like that. But I think you're in great shape here. I'm gratified the money's coming in. I regret the fact that we have to rely on public funds in order to make this project viable, because I hate to see public funds spend it, but it's a better thing to spend them on than a lot of things people are spending them on, such as a free legal clinic for illegal aliens that one of our sister counties is funding. I'll do it here for free, but I don't need any money. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment in the courtroom? Seeing none, anyone online wishing to speak during public comment, please raise your Zoom hand and Mr. Curry will unmute you. Is that Jean?
Geese?
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Bruce Kaiser. I'd just like to thank everyone that's been contributing to the discussion online. And I think that might be one reason that people didn't show up for the meeting, because there was a lot of answers answered in our broadband group. Thank you very much.
We can hear you if that was a question.
At this point, there are no other hands raised.
All right. Seeing no other hands raised, I'll close public comment. And we'll move into the regular agenda items. We don't have any presentations. Just to let everyone know, Sharon Pandak is on Zoom. Should we have questions or need any answers from her.
Great.
This Northern Shenandoah Regional Commission All Points Broadband Partnership. We had the, I guess the contract from the Fagus Foundation is on there, as well as, what else do we have? The Path Foundation request and the commitment letter that came in today. If anyone hasn't seen the Path Foundation commitment letter, they have committed to $1 million to go towards this regional approach.
Great news. Great news.
Any discussion in this section?
Do we, are we taking action tonight with respect to the Fagus Foundation contract? I've reviewed it and I know Ms. Pandak prepared it. So or do we need to authorize you to sign it, or what do we do here?
We do.
Okay. I will, so help me out with the motion. I think all I need to say is I will put forward a motion to authorize Ms. Donahue as chair of the Rappahannock County Broadband Authority to countersign the letter from the Fagus Foundation agreeing to the terms and conditions contained therein. Ms. Pandak, does that cover it?
Ms. Pandak, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Oh, I'm unmuted. Yes, it does, Mr. Kier.
Thank you.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Mr. Parrish is muted again. You have to unmute yourself if you want to talk.
I'll second for conversation or discussion. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion with regards to the Fagus Foundation contract? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 I didn't.
Mr. Parrish, can you hear us?
Okay. Yeah, I vote aye.
I don't know that. I don't know. Ms. Bond got the vote, but I did not get the vote from this table.
We have Mr. Whitson and Ms. Donahue said aye. I didn't hear Ms. Smith or Mr. Frazier. I vote nay.
I vote aye.
Mr. Frazier?
I'll vote aye.
Get that, Mr. Curry. Okay. Thank you. Let's see, those are the only voting items in that section.
I do want to point out, if people aren't familiar with the current budget of revenues that you have accounted for, the letter to Path Foundation does summarize that. And it's pretty easy to take that and then apply the $1 million they've committed to date to see that your gap right now is $314,232.
Okay.
And I think I would be remiss if I didn't thank the PATH Foundation for their support of this life-changing project.
Yeah, it's really, really incredible.
I mean, it would be great if we didn't have to spend that ARPA funding on this.
Ms. Donahue, do you want to, I know you and I had both taken a different approach to U.S. Department of Agriculture. You just want to let our colleagues know kind of where that ended up.
I did sit in on, it was a Commonwealth Reconnect webinar, and it was with discussion of the USDA grant. I was hopeful that we could actually get some grant dollars from the USDA, but the outcome of what I heard and the friends from the Rappahannock Regional Commission agreed, the owner of the fiber is who can apply for that grant.
Okay.
Isn't Sperryville usually the only area that qualifies for USDA grants?
This USDA, you're right, and this is a different bucket through the for broadband, but typically for those loans and grants, you are correct.
Thank you.
So we'll continue to look for grant money, but that was one that I thought was going to be not too difficult to obtain some funding, and found out, unfortunately, that is not correct.
I could add, I did listen in on the Broadband Advisory Council meeting earlier this week. I'm not sure if any others were on. Senator Warner did speak to the group and said that the infrastructure bill funding should spin off another perhaps 800 million to Virginia for broadband. And he and his colleagues were looking at potential language changes, using his words, that would allow forward-leaning localities to go back and recoup some of the investment that they've put in for ARPA or local dollars, to exchange them for Infrastructure Act broadband dollars. Not done yet. And that is a possibility that they're looking to potentially broaden the language in that legislation. And the recommendation was, if you can hold off on spending money, then hold off on those dollars, then try to do that. And there might be a chance that you could swap those out for infrastructure dollars down the road.
When you say swap out,
well, you've committed, obligated ARPA dollar or a local dollar. He mentioned Louisa specifically, who made some $30 million commitment or something like that. And thinking that they went in right at the tip of the spear, saying they're going to put in local dollars, big local dollars, to get this big issue solved, and then immediately take them out of the pool for having an opportunity to get any infrastructure dollars down the line, because all the needs are met.
I see.
So the idea is, can they then swap in infrastructure dollars for what they've already committed? A lot of times there's non-supplanting clauses in these sorts of funding streams. And so what he's trying to do with his peers is change that around, recognizing that there should be more than enough money to go around based on the Infrastructure Act, even recognizing that they could swap out those funds.
So I guess
TBD. I would have suggested a week ago that there's no chance that we'll get the infrastructure dollars. Now it seems like it's more possible, but still a lot of federal legislation work to get there.
But if that all happened, we would still be retaining our $1.4 million in ARPA money, plus we would get additional funds, is the idea. Because when you say swapping out, it sounds like we're not gaining, we're basically
no.
Yeah,
you would be gaining. You would be. I can't say that would be all of your local dollars that you committed to the project. But the idea would be is you would free up anything that you've already allocated to the project, which is $715,000 right now, to use for something else. But I want to make sure it's very clear. That is maybe if legislation works out the way Senator Warner would like it to.
You mean sometimes things don't, Gary?
Sometimes.
are we Has there been any indication that our public school system, like through CARES Act and ARPA, receives sort of their own COVID related funds that
Well,
they might be?
The ESSER
receiving
3
additional-
funds that they've committed to this project are those funds.
And that total is 400 and,
It was 370.
Three, yeah.
oh, okay, that's right. I
And
was
that's
rounding up.
based on the census of households that they have identified that are unserved. And therefore, just taking the ratio of the local cost and applying that cost per household to the number of households they could account for, they could draw a clear line from the ESSER 3 money to helping those households by subsidizing the 370.
I just wonder if, and this is not to put pressure on Dr. Grimsley or the school system, but I just wonder if they have exhausted sort of all education related grant opportunities that might be brought to bear on our $314,232 shortfall. I wonder if we
I know Dr. Bolt has looked at a lot of different
Okay.
options, and that's something that we can speak with her
Yeah.
about again, whether there are any other
we're so close.
sources.
Yeah.
Anything else on the USDA that you wanted to mention?
No, and I mean, I just reached out to my own contacts and basically it led back to this idea that it's a fairly rigid program that Ms. Donahue then found out about from a technical perspective. So we tried there at least.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, going into Northern Piedmont Community Foundation Partnership. This is kind of a continuation from the December meeting with the information that Ms. Bowling gave to us, which would allow pretty much anyone to donate dollars to the Broadband Authority through the Northern Piedmont Community Foundation. And so this item is here to vote to move forward with basically allowing them to set that up. We waited, we didn't vote on it last month. Mr. Curry wisely said, let's wait and see what happens with the VATI and making sure the funds were there in the first place.
Okay. So this is, this would be, am I correct that we're voting to adopt an agreement to establish what's called an organization fund within NPCF?
When Ms. Pandek is online, I would suggest you're authorizing the chair to execute the documents as presented, which is in effect would do those things.
Okay, and is the document on which we're focused, this November 19th, 2021 version? Is that correct?
That is I think the main agreement. There are some other documents that go along with it. But
okay.
Madam Chair, if I might,
Yes.
to respond to Mr. Whitson's question, Mr. Curry is correct that you would just have a motion to approve the agreement, authorize the chair to sign it. There is also a designation of advisors, and Madam Chair, I think that the discussion that we had previously was that for purposes of liaison, that would be the chair and Mr. Curry.
We said the chair and the treasurer.
that may be.
Oh,
I don't, for some reason I'm recalling treasurer, but I could be wrong. What's in that document?
I think they had wanted two people, so. And I believe the authority had previously designated Mr. Curry as kind of the administrative assistant on these things, but that's up to the board.
Mr. Curry, how do you feel about that? I mean, is it? I mean, you're
My understanding from those conversations was that this is more of an administrative thing.
That it is.
The two designees couldn't order up money or anything like that. That would take the authority board's action.
Okay.
It was more of the administrative process within the fund.
Okay.
Are you okay being the second
I'm usually around.
Yes.
I will put forward a motion that we adopt the agreement to establish an organization fund administered by the Northern Piedmont Community Foundation and authorize the chair to execute the agreement as it's presented in board docs.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you.
That was all in favor?
Next item.
Did you want to have any formal action on those designees? The chair and myself?
If you need a separate motion.
I didn't hear it in the main motion.
Okay, I just thought that we had, okay, I thought
Whatever.
we had remembered that you two were the identified representatives. I will make an additional motion that Ms. Donna and Mr. Curry are the county primary contacts for Northern Piedmont Community Foundation in
I'll second
the
that, yeah.
context of that same agreement.
All right, we've got Mr. Whitson and Ms. Smith. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. I just don't want there to be any
Yep.
question after we leave this room.
Yep.
Good point. Next is discussion and decision regarding authority granted to the chair. This is something Ms. Pandit worked up.
Who asked you to look this up, Madam Chair?
I did, based on some feedback I'd received from you, Mr. Fraser, with regards to the authority of the chair. And this was primarily created to just have clarity documented.
You didn't get this understanding from me that I wanted such a document.
No, what I got from you, Mr. Fraser, was questions with regards to work that had been done. And so it had been recommended to me that actually something be put in writing. If there's something you disagree with on the resolution, this is open for discussion. It's just for clarity's sake, moving forward.
I don't think we need this. I don't think that, no matter what the body is, I don't think one individual should have too much authority. And that's what we're doing here. That's what I've been complaining about is one person, which is namely yourself, assuming the authority. And now you're trying to set it in writing. I don't think it's a good thing. We're a very small body. We're a very small county. I don't know why we have to have one individual basically riding herd on the rest of us. I don't care who the chair would be. I would oppose this.
I mean, we've had this issue since this authority was started. You know, we've had it with legal counsel, which then when it came to light that that was an issue, the majority of the authority voted for you to be able to engage legal counsel whenever you see fit. And now we get something like this that we didn't even get a heads up about.
Well, you got a heads up when it went up on board docs.
Yeah, but not prior to you engaging legal counsel to have them draft it.
It
And I
was,
have a problem with that.
it was recommended to me by
The
other legal counsel.
that you asked to draft it
No.
recommended that you do it.
Actually, another legal counsel, but if we.
What other legal counsel are we getting?
The.
Or is
Board
it
of
your private legal counsel?
No,
Well, then who asked you to draft this?
nobody asked. It was recommended based on the feedback I'd received in the past with regards to what my rights were as chair or not.
Who recommended that you draft this?
I had a discussion with Mr. Goff, who actually said it would probably be wise to have something documented. So
you
Ms.
initially
Pandak-
said that you had it drafted based on a conversation with Mr. Fraser, but now you're saying that you had it drafted based on a conversation with Mr. Goff.
No, this all began with conversations with Mr. Fraser. If you don't like the resolution, it's fine. I'm trying to have clarity where obviously clarity was wanted. If we don't want this, that's fine. Ms. Pandak, I don't know if you want to speak to the clarity this would provide or not.
Well, I think, Madam Chair, as you indicated, I understood that you spoke with Mr. Goff, and Mr. Goff thought it would be a good idea based on Mr. Fraser's questions previously, to have something. And so I perfectly comfortable with having such a resolution. As I noted in here, one of the things which was with respect to consultation with legal counsel, which the authority had approved several months ago. But I thought if you were going to have a formal resolution, then that would be an example of the types of things that were appropriate. Usually, in the absence of having a clear administrative authority to implement actions of the authority or of an authority or of any entity, then the chair would normally be looked to as the person to do that. And then I had incorporated in here reference in part to in the last, now there before it resolved, to the assistance of the county administrator, because as I have understood, he has assisted with things that are ministerial tasks, financial type tasks, just again to implement the direction of the authority. I did include in here, although it wasn't initially asked of me, the summarizing such work at board meetings is appropriate, because I thought that if there was a concern by some authority board members that the chair was not simply implementing policy, but straying a little bit, then the check on that would be for the chair to provide an update as to actions taken at appropriate points in time, so that everybody could keep track of what was going on. And then I think it is appropriate that the resolution is generic and not related to a particular chair or to a particular county administrator.
It seems like we've had this sense all along that with this VATI application and then everything tied to it, that things would move quickly, and we just need people to, like you, Ms. Donahue, on our behalf, to at least return phone calls to people and sit in on webinars or WebEx meetings or whatever. So I think here it's just, the goal is to be as nimble as we can be, and I respect my colleagues who make a very good point that, you know, we should be operating as a board. So I guess my practical question is, if we, once things really get rolling and we get to the contract phase, maybe Mr. Curry can just answer this. How many days notice would we need to call a special meeting of our broadband authority?
3 days.
3 days. So that's, I mean, I think all things being equal, that's a pretty quick response time if we have to make some decision. So I suggest maybe we just set this aside for now and move on, and then just all be prepared to come in on 72 hours notice if we have to make a collective decision on something.
It's okay for me.
I think if I could say something, I think the more clarity, the better. And I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we pass this resolution. I think if Mr. Goff thinks it's a good idea, it's probably a good idea. So I'd like to make a resolution that we go ahead and pass this, a motion that we pass this resolution.
All due respect, Mr. Parrish, Mr. Goff is not the legal counsel for the authority.
That doesn't mean that it's not a good idea.
How much time and energy and money was spent drafting this?
Well, it's already been spent, so I guess that's a moot point.
No, it's not a moot point. I'd like to know the answer.
Madam Chairman, I can't tell you right off, because I don't think I can readily pull up my charges, but my guess would be that it was maybe half an hour, 45 minutes between that and the contact information.
But what this does do, the fact that you've drawn it up and Mr. Goff has recommended it, it just cements the theory in my mind that no one had the authority to do those things to start with. That's why they want to do it now, do this now, so that they have that authority, whether it's actually legal or not, because of some of the actions that they may take later that may have actually have to be voted on by the full authority, or at least a majority of the authority. And I just have to concur with Mr. Whitson. I appreciate him coming forward with that and just recommending that we table this at this time.
Yeah, I think it's a
I'm
good.
fine with that. Mr. Parrish, if you don't mind, we'll table this.
Okay, it's up to y'all.
Thanks.
If you don't have a second, I think
Yep.
It's already done.
Yep, it's been tabled by no second.
Okay.
All right. Going into the treasurer's report. And we did get the website, Lori, her company, or her and her husband paid by the end of the year. Ms. Nick was very good about getting that check to them.
It would be nice if our mission statement was on the website. Most broadband authorities, when you open up the website, the mission statement's the first thing you see.
We can definitely add that. I've not received any feedback as of yet. Website.
Well, there are a lot of things posted on there that, I mean, this organization never signed off on.
You were asked for feedback. I never received any.
Well, the facts, frequently asked questions were drafted by 2 members of this authority. It is not an official document of this authority, and yet it's posted on our website.
You were asked for feedback on everything
I'm giving you
before
my
it went
feedback
live.
right now, Madam Chairman.
It's up now.
We couldn't have approved it if we didn't have a meeting.
You should have added it to
Mr.
the
Fraser,
agenda.
there was an email that went out to everyone because we knew the timeline. And I
understand
was
that,
told that we could get quick replies without any problems. And I received 0 feedback on the website.
Well,
If there are things now that you would like to have changed, please let me know.
the frequently asked questions should be taken down. They were not an official.
We need frequently asked questions if there are particular ones that you disagree
Then you
with.
should pull them off and we should work through them as an authority because they were never voted on by this authority. They're something that was drafted by 2 members of this authority. And that's not the way a governing body
Actually,
works.
that's not the way that worked, but we're in the treasurer's report right
Well,
now.
that's the way it was explained in the newspaper, Madam Chairman.
Point
Please explain to me how they were drafted.
Point of order, ma'am. We're in the treasurer's report. If you want to talk about this in the open board discussion, be happy to.
I thought you were talking about
Anything else in the
website.
treasurer's report? Hearing none, we'll move on to the open board discussion.
Can I talk now about the website?
Certainly, it's open board discussion.
Great. So how did the frequently asked questions get drafted?
Most of them were copied from other websites, and the web people, Lori and her husband, were given the authority to take things off of the All Points Broadband website and others that they saw that they felt were good questions. We all had the opportunity to review them. If there are particular ones you don't like, please let me know.
I think we should review them all as an authority. That's my request for the next meeting.
Yes.
Because they were published in the newspaper before this authority ever had any opportunity to give feedback on them.
Well, I think it's 2 different things. There's a letter to the editor.
Well, one's the basis for the other.
No, first of all, I didn't draft any of this stuff. So when you're saying 2 people on our board drafted, I had no involvement in this
Well, that's
website
what I
content.
understood from the newspaper. If it was mischaracterized, I apologize.
I don't know what the newspaper said, but anyway. Yeah, I didn't. So that's not right. And then there was a letter to the editor from Ms. Donna, and I helped with that. But I mean, that's a letter to the editor to a newspaper. So that's not a board decision. Mr. Fraser had a letter to the editor, and I don't think he consulted us before he put it in, last week. So same. I mean, it's the same idea.
Well, the frequently asked questions that were posted and like an official document of the authority, and it referenced that it was a document from the chairman of the authority.
It was
Made
just,
it sound like it was an official document, and then it shows up
it
posted
didn't,
on our website.
they're 2 different things. This is not the same content. A letter to the editor from one person, Debbie Donahue, who's a citizen, who's a member of our board, and this are very different things. So at our next meeting, while we make an agenda, and we can go through this. I mean, I'm
Sure.
reviewing it, and I can't imagine it'll take us that long. I mean, this is pretty.
This thing will even let me go to if I use the link that Ms. Donahue provided, it tells me that it's a site that's trying to steal my information.
I don't
There was a different site during draft, and once it went live, it's on
It's
broadband.org.
broadband.org.
We did have the ability to look at it before it went live, and that was
Yeah.
what we tried to
Right.
do.
Well, I just don't have, what I'm doing at nights right now, I don't have the ability to look at a computer at all except after, 2 o'clock in the morning. And I don't feel like I'm gonna make a lot of sense out of something at 3 o'clock in the morning by pulling it up, so. There are times I may not be on your schedule.
No, it's fine. I believe we did this in December.
Yeah, and you did. send it out
November,
for-
December,
Well,
yeah.
I was doing it back then, and I guess I simply forgot to look at it at the time, and I didn't expect that y'all would just go on. Maybe I should have expected that y'all would just go on and do things.
Anyway.
There's no reason we can't add it to the agenda for next month.
Great.
Any other open board discussion?
Well, I have a couple of things.
Okay,
Number one, I guess, my letter that I sent to the board and I had posted on, in the newspaper, they were gracious enough to print it for us. I really think that we need to try and work on those concerns somehow. All the counties around us have worked on beefing up their wireless networks before they got involved with this fiber to the home. And they have a better handle on problems that we don't. So if maybe we need to revamp our contract a little bit with or agreement with All Points to allow us to do some work with wireless communications, or maybe they provide some kind of wireless communications in the interim. But we're leaving people, like I said in my letter, 4 hours into a 9-hour storm with hardly any significant snowfall. This county had 1,131 services without electricity. And 8 or 10 hours later, we had no phones in a lot of those areas. And we also may have lost 911 coverage. I'm not sure about that. But when you have, even on a dry, sunshiny day, people with CenturyLink cannot, pick up the phone and call 911, we have an immediate problem. Not a problem that we want to correct in the next 2 to 3 years. We have an immediate problem we need to address. And I think that needs to be put on our next agenda.
So, I mean, I listened to you read your letter onto the record at our, I guess it was our board of supervisors meeting.
Yes.
And I didn't, for me, it was sort of and I'd like, if you can help me understand, there's a leap of logic there that I don't follow, because it sounds like you're saying to us, we should do nothing.
I didn't say that.
Well, let me finish. It sounds like you're saying we should do nothing with fiber to the home.
You don't see that in
to do something else that obviously hasn't worked in decades in Rappahannock County, which is, universal cell or wireless communication and infrastructure. I mean, you and I voted against together, if I remember correctly, we voted against the Scrabble cell tower, right?
We approved Scrabble.
Scrabble.
I voted against it.
I think Scrabble was approved, but
It was approved, but I voted against it. I thought you did too.
I may have, I don't even remember. But
Right.
the thing is, we were voting on those towers based on what Federal Communications told us, or Federal Engineering, whatever, on the Boston Tower and the Sprayville Tower.
Right, but why would we're within $300,000 of funding a $20 million
Well, see,
project?
first off, I didn't know that when I wrote that. No one gave me that information. But second, I never said that we shouldn't do the fiber, but we should do something in the interim, because he asked for the permission to extend the 24 months to 36 months in the body agreement. We don't even know, I don't know. Do you know that there's actually a requirement that he build it in 36 months?
Okay, that's a different question. So
Well, no, I'm just throwing out some questions here while we're talking about it. I did not say not do anything. I don't know why you read that in there. And that's how come, I guess some of your spokespeople accuse me of things like this on social media. I didn't say those things.
I don't know, I'm supposed to be,
I
anyway,
said what I said, and what I said was, we don't have anything right now, and there's no plans to put anything in place for up to 36 months. And in the meantime, what are we gonna do?
but they're two separate things.
But no, we have to do something.
But
If we have to do something for broadband, if it's that critical, but we can wait 3 years for it. Why is it so critical? It's critical now, if it's critical at all.
Right, but what are you,
I just told you that we need to do something to beef up our wireless, which is the adjoining counties did prior to locking themselves into this contract with All Points. Fauquier and Culpeper both did that. I don't know about Warren County, but I know that Culpeper and Fauquier both beefed up their wireless communications before they locked themselves into a contract of this type.
well, it's not before to pave the way for this. It's just happens that if I understand you correctly, they have more robust tower-based wireless communication
We didn't do
systems.
anything. We had an opportunity to work with one or more providers, and we chose not to do anything.
Like who?
Well, Piedmont made an offer to do something, and we.
Piedmont's still in our market. And we
But they
changed the
asked-
ordinance on the 80-foot
They
towers
asked for
to,
us to invest into their system so that they could shore up and beef up, and they call it harden up, but we didn't even respond.
but that's not, Piedmont Broadband is broadband. So that's a wireless broadband system that fiber to the home, obviously.
If they had
Improves
broadband at their
upon.
homes, they could have picked up a phone and called 911.
The folks on Zoom just want to make sure people identify themselves so they know who's speaking.
Oh, okay. But I mean, we should do something. We should bring Mr. Carr or one of his spokespeople back in here and ask him if there's anything that we can do with wireless in the interim. Then that wouldn't even be in competition with him. But to sit there and say that we're hoping no one has chest pains for the next 3 years that has CenturyLink phones is, I don't think good enough.
I just want to chime in and say, I just did look, and Mr. Frazier, you were absent from that meeting where we had the towers, so you didn't vote one way or the other on any of those things. I think you were ill. I would say I feel very acutely having my hands tied for my district in this process. And I understand very well what Mr. Frazier is saying because of the interplay with RDOF and the body. There are 900 homes that could be served under the RDOF program in the district that I represent, Piedmont District, and the Stonewall Hawthorne District. And that's a federal, fully funded program that the majority of this authority seems to be content to turn their back on. And I've never understood that, except that Mr. Parrish, and I don't mean to speak ill of you, Mr. Parrish, except that you sat here and said you really don't understand this. Well, I believe you didn't understand it, because I don't understand how you could have voted consistently against such a good delivery of services to many, many homes in your district and not stuck up for your people. But that is some of the most unserved area in my district, down to 31. And we cannot engage with Chantel to find out what's going on.
Well, there's a whole separate process that, there's a whole separate challenge process. Chantel and All Points Broadband and the Valley people,
I
they're
understand
gonna
that.
work that out. And
But
then,
we, through our good faith agreement that we signed, we cannot engage Chantel.
Chantel's solution for that area under RDOF was a wireless solution.
That is correct.
Right, and they've subsequently said on earnings calls that they're exiting the wireless business. So I don't even know that that's,
They have not backed out of the RDOF award, though.
well, there's a process where they may or may not.
You're
So
correct.
either they'll retain that area and serve it in some other way, not wireless, I assume.
But if those were households that you were representing, Mr. Whitson, wouldn't you feel acutely the frustration of not being able to find out for people what they could get, and when they can get it, and what is going on?
Well, I
We
think,
cannot engage.
I think the All Points Broadband timeline is such that those households are gonna be served within the same period of time.
I don't think so.
Well,
Because
I
if
don't
they're
know.
gonna stay competitive with body, they've got to expedite their timeline. And you're also ignoring the fact that unfortunately, this authority has devolved into a lot of politics by what districts we serve. And the fact, I think it's no accident that this line runs through your district and Ms. Donahay's district. You're very bullish on this solution. But you know, the hard line that we were shown last time that comes up 522 down to 11 over Chester Gap, that will serve you all very well and probably very quickly. But it will not serve many people in my district very well or very quickly. And it will not serve many people in Stonewall Hawthorne very well or very quickly. And it will not serve many people in Jackson District very well or very quickly.
It serves anyone that's unserved. So I don't
Eventually,
understand that.
but you will be first
Why would you say that?
because you're the first place that they've put in the line.
You're
They
talking about,
haven't laid it west of Sperryville down to
you're
31.
talking about
or-
the REC.
That's
platform?
correct, the
Yeah.
backbone.
That's REC's.
I mean, that's just where highways are. It doesn't have anything to do with, I mean,
Well, they've eventually will build out the rest of the backbone, but you will clearly be served first.
I don't think that's correct.
I don't either because it's coming
But-
from Culpeper.
The REC backbone has to be in place before all points then adds onto it. So
I don't think it's
We're all
going to be in
just
place
guessing at this
completely.
point.
anyway, I don't.
Do we
I
have
don't
any
follow.
idea when Chantel is going to make their decision?
But
We're
another
still waiting
aspect
on
of that that
Chantel.
we're not really discussing. Why would we anticipate Chantel to do anything in an area when we're taking local funding and state funding and giving it to their competitor?
But Chantel,
Got
through the
federal
buying
funding.
process, has a way that they can retain their RDOF territory. So
Not for the same kind of monies, but anyway. We've got that on the table and it looks like, you know, y'all are kind of adamant, you don't really want to work with anything on that. Can we ask the gentleman from Northern Shenandoah Valley Regional Commission to come and explain the financial process and the contracting process with us at our next meeting?
I thought February would be a good time as well.
I'd really like to see an overlay map of what we started with from the schools for areas of need and what we'll eventually be able to deliver under this body application and the timeline for meeting those needs.
We should have that at that meeting too, so that we know what we're talking about. We have people in Amosville that have gotten prices of $4,300 to $25,000. One lady, $83,000 to have Comcast ran into her house.
Yep.
So we need to know, are they considered
Unserved.
unserved and are they going to build through there?
Yes, sir.
Well, that question's been answered. If there's a special construction charge, whether it be $100 or
I know, but-
$80,000, they're
but the-
unserved.
Mr. Carr has said so many different things at so many different times to so many different bodies. We need concrete proof.
That concrete is not gonna happen until you finalize an agreement. And so we can get all the written or oral responses we want up until that time. They're not worth the paper they're written on until they're in an agreement.
But we can't do that all in one meeting, Gary.
Well,
Yes.
of course not.
All right, so that's what I'm asking for. Let's start working on that so that we have it sometime in March or whatever that date is. February would be a really good time to look at it.
I disagree. Once there's a kickoff meeting from the state, DHCD, hopefully we'll get an idea of what DHCD is a party to this contract as well, what they think needs to be in the agreement. And then it's not, you're gonna have three parties to that agreement and Northern Shenandoah Valley Regional Commission, they can't sign an agreement unless they know they're gonna get money from the counties. And so there's probably gonna be secondary agreements. And so all of that's gotta be worked together. And I agree that it's gonna be a lot of work with, plus the electrical cooperatives, you're gonna have 15, 16 agencies or bodies in play. There's gonna be a lot of work to get. through
Somebody's
that
got to draw
kind of
those maps that we can agree to.
It'll be a lot of work.
Mr. Frazier, your schedule, as far as if we needed to have special meetings, is there a particular day of the week that's better or not for you?
During the day, I'm pretty open. Evenings, I have problems. But Friday, I don't. Friday evenings, I don't. Daytime is not difficult.
All right. Any further discussion and open board discussion?
Have all the other RDOF body, I think that they have been resolved. All the other challenges were resolved, correct?
There's two processes at play. There was the utility leverage program. There were 3 challenges through the utility leverage program. And then following that, there was the VATI process, and there was a single challenge in the VATI process. The utility leverage program, All Points Broadband submitted to the state through that process before we were even engaged with them in any way, I guess prospecting wise, what they believed were the unserved areas of Rappahannock County. And that led to the 3 challenges. When the VATI program came around and only Chantel submitted their challenge, All Points Broadband removed their submission to the utility leverage program, basically taking off the table, making those challenges moot. So there is only one challenge currently, and that is the special form of an RDOF awardee, which you've discussed several times.
Thank you.
Not hearing any more open board discussion. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn our meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you very much.